Jonathan Tobin. He's the editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate and joins us live today from Philadelphia. Thank you so much for being here on Scripps News. So Israel's defenses were ready for yesterday's barrage of missiles and drones by Iran. If things escalate further, what's the biggest fear amongst Israelis about what Iran could potentially do next?
Well, Israel is worried about two things. Number one, about Iran not being deterred by too much restraint from the West, and the fear that what happened this weekend, as well as what happened on October 7th by Iran's proxy Hamas, it stemmed from a belief among Iran and its terrorist auxiliaries that the United States is distancing itself from Israel, and that the United States is still more interested in appeasing Iran, continuing the policies first begun by President Obama, continued by President Biden, and that's what's encouraging this. Now, the real threat from Iran is not from missiles on its own territories, but from its terrorist auxiliaries in Lebanon. Hezbollah has well over 100,000 missiles pointed at Israel, which could do grievous harm to Israel and probably overwhelm any defense systems. But they're not going to use that. They're not going to fire that bullet because they are holding it as a sort of the fail-safe in case of a absolute all-out war against Israel or the West or threats to its nuclear facilities. So I don't think they're going to employ that simply because once they did, they couldn't use it again.
And today, former UN Ambassador John Bolton urged Israel to give Iran a, quote, powerful response, even going as far as to call President Biden an embarrassment to the United States for urging Israel not to retaliate against Iran. I want to listen to a little bit of what he had to say.
I will tell you this, if Joe Biden, as some press reports have it, is urging the Israelis not to retaliate at all, he is an embarrassment to the United States. This is an American interest to make sure that Iran, which is the principal threat to international peace and security in the region, is at a minimum put in its place to spare Israel, to spare the Gulf Arabs, to spare us from the threat that they pose.
What's your take on his comment?
Well, I would agree that too much restraint with regards to Iran is always a mistake. They're bullies. They back down when challenged, not when they're appeased. And the whole history of the Middle East for the last 10 years has proved that. What Israel needs to do is to deter Iran. And restraint is more about President Biden's political interest, because his belief that the left wing of the Democratic Party is opposed to Israel, that he's insufficiently hostile to Israel, more than any strategic interest of the United States or of Israel. As I said before, this largely happened because of Iran's perceptions of American weakness dating back to Afghanistan, as well as its efforts to stop Israel from fully defeating Hamas. That's what's encouraging Iran. More restraint isn't going to do. And obviously, it's a perilous situation. Israel has to judge very carefully what it does or doesn't do. But blindly going ahead with restraint, the idea that that will gain Israel's sympathy or that that will calm down Iran is a mistake. Iran perceives weakness, and that's the problem.
And by and large, Israel did thwart off that major attack that Iran did deem a success. Is matching force with force the right strategy here, especially with Hamas and the war in Gaza still going on as well? What do you think Israel needs to do next?
Well, obviously, Israel's defense forces want to fight one war at a time. It doesn't want a general war with Iran, but Iran doesn't want a general war with Israel either. But what it does do, and what it has been doing, is attacking Israel from Hezbollah in the north, pinpricks, but largely made northern Israel uninhabitable. The communities on the border have had to empty out. They have added to the toll of hundreds of thousands of Israelis who are refugees in their own country, a story that has gone largely unreported in this country because it conflicts with the narrative about Palestinian victimhood. Israel needs to send a strong message to Iran. That's what led to this. And it's not clear to me that restraint now would enhance Israel's security as much as it does want to avoid a general war.
The whole region teetering in a delicate balance right now. Jonathan Tobin, editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Former President Donald Trump weighing in on the latest in Israel.